Hey folks, this is Johnny. Welcome to another Home Studio Trainer Show, and today I am going to kind of go off the rails a little bit here. I'm going to start another 101 series called Impact XT, and I'm going to go through some of the features and functions of Impact, and as always, if you have any suggestions for videos on Impact and I missed something, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I will make sure to add it to the list. So what this is going to entail is building your own drum kit with some external samples. So like for external samples, for instance, I have some libraries of from my old D4 module, from my DM5, and a couple of my Roland modules. I'm going to show how to use those samples. Now these are samples that I recorded in Studio One and then actually cut them up into just small tidbits so that I could bring them in as WAV files into Impact. Some of these I created, some of these somebody gave me, so I've got a really huge selection, and I will make all of these available to some of the members of my Patreon, so stay tuned for that. All right, if you could, as always, like and subscribe to my channel, enable the notifications so you know when these videos are going to start, and if you could, if you want to support the channel, click the join button and give a couple bucks a month to help me keep things going, because these things take a little bit of time, and I'm trying to do this full time, hopefully like I used to for a while. All right, very cool. So let's go to the classroom, and here we are in Impact, and you can see I've got this pulled up. I've got my Atom SQ, and I've got my little Akai MPK Mini so that I can do the general MIDI stuff in here, and I'll tell you all about that as I move along. All right, so if you look over here on the right-hand side, you can see that I have my drum library all pulled up, and I got cymbals, effects, kicks, percussion, snares, and toms, and I have everything that I need here. The cymbals has everything from hi-hats to rides to crash cymbals. Now remember, this is the old D4 module, so some of these samples aren't great, but some of them are classic, so we're going to go through those. All right, so if you actually look at your piano keyboard, you can actually see here, let me actually open up a piano keyboard here. I'm going to go to my instruments just so that you can see it. I'm going to bring in Presence on its own track. Now, we're not going to use Presence, but on a regular keyboard, it usually starts at C here. All right, so now for general MIDI, it usually goes kick, snare, rim shot, hi-hat, closed, hi-hat foot, open hi-hat, and then these usually occupy drums, whether it's double toms or just single tom tracks, it depends. There is no chart that I'm aware of. If you guys know of a chart for general MIDI corresponding to the actual keys, I just happen to know by memory because I've been playing MIDI drums for so long. But that's what we're going to set up. You can also, if you like, you can go through your Atom SQ, and then you can just use all of the keys that show up on the Atom SQ, and you can see that as I press the keys on the Atom SQ, you can see that they are actually in order, so that makes a big difference. All right, so somebody is really trying to get a hold of me. I don't know who. All right, so when you look at stuff like this, it's really important to understand if you're going to use the general MIDI. It's usually the kick, the snare. You can see it skips one because the kick, this is usually a rim shot, this is usually a snare, this is usually like a cowbell, and then a secondary snare, just like that as you go along. All right, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use my MPK Mini to actually designate my sounds. So let's right-click and say Remove Track and Instrument. All right, so if we go back to our files over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to click on Files, and I am going to say Cymbals, and I'm going to see cymbals and all of these. So I'm going to start with a kick. So the kick is going to go here. So if I open up the kicks, one of the things I can do is if I click on one of these files, I can actually audition it. I got it looping. There we go. You can see that this is the velocity, 105 and 127. I usually only use the loud ones for kits like this. So I'm just going to bring this over here to the kick. All right, so you want to make sure that once you actually get the sample on there, if you want it to not cut itself off, you want to go to the choke option and turn it off. All right, so the snare is going to go here. Let me open up the snares. Ooh, that's the rawhide snare. Let's see. That's 30. Rawhide. There we go. I guess the Fat City. Oh, that's the Torqued. Classic. That's definitely classic. I'm looking for a particular one. Well, there's the Gate. I love that. That's very Phil Collins. Dry Combo. Flange. Media Hype. Ooh, there you go. That's a pop snare if I ever heard one. And that's just a snare. Squank. Sure. And here's the Brighter. Ooh, I like that one. It's got a nice tail on it. Darker. Gated. I'm looking for a specific one here. There's Nasty. Piccolo. Piccolo Wet. Alright, I think I'm going to go back up here and go with... There's a rim. Let's go back up to the top. I like the rawhide. Alright, so we want to put it on this pad here. Boom. Okay, somehow that stayed on self. Okay, good. Now they're all off. All right, so there we go. So we got the kick and the snare, and on these three here that you see lighting up, oh, and I can actually choose the color of the pad. Red, blue, let's see, we're going to go with this. We're going to make all of these yellow. I'm going to have to put on pad focus so that it stays on the different pads. So there we go. There's that yellow, and this one yellow. So now let's find our three sounds. So let's go here and let's go to cymbals. And here's our hi-hats. Let's see. These are nice. Ooh, I like this one. I'm going to bring that here. Now we want to open. So let's see, where is the opens? There's a crash. There we go, I like that. So my crashes are going to go on these two. So I'm going to make this a crash. And let's see if I've got a ride in here. Tiny flange. Low paying. Ooh, that's kind of neat. That's like stereo. Alright, so we're looking for the open hi-hat. I kind of got off track there. So let's see if I can find the open hi-hat. Here we go. There it goes. That says open. That does not sound like open to me. There we go. So I want this here and open. So you can see that they don't cut off. So in this case, you want to click on the pad and you want to put this in group 1. You're going to click on the open and put it in group 1. There we go. So let me see if I can find a foot pedal. So let's see what have I got here. All right, there we go. There we go, just like that. So let me see. Is there a foot here? Trashy cymbal. What? These aren't in very good order here. Or is it just pedal? Might be pedal. Might be at the end. Ah. There it is. And that's going to go on this pad here. And we also want to put that in group 1. Ooh, looks like there's a little bitty space there. See, and as I'm hitting it, you can see that there's just a little bit of air before that. I'm going to bring this over here. There we go. There we go. So that's cool because you can tailor the end and you can tailor the beginning. And then I'm going to show you shortly how to actually use these controls to kind of customize the sound. All right. Perfect. All right, so we're just going to do a couple of toms here. We're going to use these two for toms. All right, that's a crash. We want all of our symbols yellow. There we go. And the color really only matters if you have an Atom. I don't know of any other controller that actually responds to the color settings. So I got the Atom SQ here, so my pads that I'm changing the colors on are turning yellow. All right, so let's see. Let's get a couple of toms here. Let's do a tom here. Let's go back up to the top of this list. This should go pretty quick now. Symbols, and there we go, toms. So let's see. So we want a high tom. So I want these two to be the high tom. And I want this one because I want them right next to each other. And what I do is I take one of them and I pitch it just a bit. So you can see here you got the gain, you got the pan, and we can transpose or just tune it. Okay, so actually I did the wrong one. I want to get that. I want this one to be tuned down a little bit. There it goes. And that's really just so that they, since it's the same sample, so they don't flange against each other too badly. Kind of gives you a left and right, kind of, you know, left and right hand kind of sound to it. Again, it's just slight, so. All right, so let's see. So we got the mid. So now these two, I want to do the mid. Here is this one, and then here is this one. And the mid, I want to actually, there we go. And then let's see, so we've got the low. Is there a floor? Oh, there we go. So I think I'm going to put the low here and the low here. There we go. I think I'm going to tune these up a little bit, but I'm going to use the pitch this time. I'm going to go up a whole semitone. So, I'm going to go 2. So now I've got, there we go, just like that. And you can see that those are already preset to the choke being off so that they ring out. Now, multi-samples and things like that, that's for another video. That takes a while to build. So I got to see if I can do that video and not put people to sleep on that one. All right, so there we go. So I've got toms. There we go. So now I have the kit built. So now the real important part of this is actually saving the sounds. Before I actually save a preset, before I even export the sampler file, the first thing that we have to do is we have to copy external files. Now, normally, if you have that feature activated, let me see if I can remember where that is. Where the heck is that? Let's see, copy external files. There is an option for, there we go, ask to copy external files. Okay, now that's normally going to be asked when you have that checked. That is going to pop up and ask you if you want to do that when you hit save. Now, if you have to do it beforehand, which is what we have to do here because we're not going to exit the song yet, we're going to go to, is it song? And it is copy external files. Boom. Now it's going to ask if I want to bring these sounds in to Studio One so that we can save it. We're going to say yes. You can see all of the sounds are there. We're going to say yes. Beautiful. So now what we can do is we can actually go to the little disk here and we can say store preset. Or we can do export sampler file. Now, exporting instrument plus effects, I'm going to do a whole video on that. That pretty much comes up as like an effects chain kind of a deal, but we'll get into that later. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to export a sampler file. And what this is going to do, it's going to create something that I can share with everybody or just keep as a backup for myself. So we're going to call this D4 Drum Kit 1. All right, so now what this is going to do, I'm going to save it to the desktop. I'm going to hit save, and you can see really quick it's exporting the files into that folder, and it's going to put it here. Perfect. Right where I want it. All right, so now we're going to put that back up there. We can import that or share that at any time. So we can do one of two things now. We can go ahead and save this as a preset, or we can just re-import that file so it puts it in our list. So you can see I've actually done some testing and this and that, but we're not going to worry about this right now. All right, so we're going to go here. We're going to click on the little disk, and we are going to say, let me see. We're going to say import preset. Now, what we want this to do is if we do import preset, it's going to add it to our list. It's going to add it to our presets. So I'm going to say import preset. I am going to go to my desktop here, if I can find it. There it is. And there's a D4 Drum Kit 1. So I'm going to click on that. Boom. One preset file. Preset file was important. Now this is important. You have to see this. If you don't see this when you hit it, then you got to do it again or figure out why it didn't save. So now if I go to my list, I'm going to look for the D4. I'm in C. There it is. But you can see here that the icon is a little different. The icon is a little bit different than the presets. Now, you don't have to save this as a preset now. If you make changes to it and you want to save those changes, you can save it as a preset. But if I go ahead and open up a different kit, and I go back here and I click on D4 Drum Kit, you can see it all comes back. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. There we go. So there you go. That gives you the ability to really make sure that these kits that you build, and I've had this issue with a couple of users, you know, they would set things up, they wouldn't do the copy external files, and suddenly they go back to the kit and everything's red, everything's saying that the samples can't be found. So if you do that sampler file, and it saves it as a SoundX file, if you look at it right here, says SoundX. You got to make sure that you have that. And again, it's a really good way to keep a backup of the kits that you create in Impact. And when you go back and import them, it saves them in your preset list, and they will always be there. So even if let me see if this will work. If I delete this now, or I move it, let me move it somewhere else where I don't need. And I go back here, and I'm going to go to another drum kit. There we go. And I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to look for my D4. There we go. It all saved. So those are very important steps. Now, one last thing before we go. So now you've got the kick and the snare. You see, you can hear that they've got some long tails on them. Let's say you don't want that. You can use the editor over here to customize that. So if you listen to the snare, I'm going to go over here to the amplitude, and I'm going to take the decay, and I'm going to bring it down a little bit. There we go. Before, after. I can do that with the kick. Before, after. You can even do that with the attack. Just like that. So you have a lot of options. Now, the filter is really cool. If I click on the filter, I have this punch option. This is my favorite option. All right, let's see. I can actually kind of EQ it a bit. There we go. And now, listen to what happens to the attack on this snare. That is, I love this. It's like super compressed. And I can go ahead to the kick. And I can do that also. Turn on the filter. Make it a little brighter. There we go. Beautiful. And then, of course, like I showed you up here, you've got the transpose, and you've got the tune, and you've got some decay and hold and attack options. You have those on all of these. You can even actually move the envelope around for modulation if you want to do actually something cool. So there's a lot to play with here. So now in the next video, we're going to build another kit. And we're going to start using some of these options here. And we're going to go through some multi-layered. By multi-layered, I mean, like say you got a snare and you have 4 snares. Or if you look over here on the right, you can see that some of these tom hits have 2 velocity levels. You can actually import both of those into a single pad and trigger them with certain velocities. And I'm going to show you all that in the next video. All right, folks, so let's see. What do we got here? Let's go back to the main, and I hope this was helpful for you guys. There are so many ways to actually customize your own kit. You can even start building the kit on separate channels so that you can mix it like real drums. There's a whole lot of stuff that you can do, and you never have to do the transform or render these things out. You can keep them in Impact so that you can always access them that way, and it makes a huge difference when you're actually doing mixing and you want to be able to go back and change certain things. Lots of cool options there. Okay, guys, so I hope you got enough out of that to where you can start building your own kits very soon. For the Patreon folks, I'm going to make all of my samples available for everybody. I did this a few years ago for my live stream folks, and eventually I will make them available to everybody. But the Patreon folks get first dibs. So if you want to join Patreon, you want to be a member, this is for the paid members. There are some free members over there, and I might hand out a couple of kits to them too. So all of you guys that are my Patreon supporters, thank you guys so much. Eventually I'll be doing a list of my Patreon supporters. So far there's 31. Thank you guys for helping support the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.